Thank you very much, Nasreen. And I do think that what you mentioned, the importance of the convergence between IT and OT networks, cloud, all these different environments is extremely important. And also the need to architect a comprehensive security strategy. Now, moving on from the industrial or enterprise point of view to the researcher and attacker's point of view, and discussing about the financial gains behind all these recent IoT-related security attacks, I'm happy to present Mr. Matan Scharf, Strategic Advisor to the Blavatnik ICRC in Tel Aviv University, and CEO and founder of Scharf. Matan.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for staying. I know that I'm that person, that pesky person that's separating you from lunch. So I'll try to be brief as much as I can, and either way you'll see me here after lunch as well. I want to start the same way actually that Esti started by giving props to the amazing moderator of the first session, Mr. Mendy Berzilai. I think that I'm going to have some big shoes to fill there. So today I came here to talk to you about IoT cybersecurity. When we will have the slide on the screen, that would be great. Yes, perfect. So as Ofer said, my name is Matan Scharf. I'm a strategic advisor here at the Tel Aviv University ICRC, which is where you are at right now. I'm the founder and CEO of Scharf, a cybersecurity startup that deals with automotive cybersecurity. So the world of IoT is obviously very, very dear to me. And what I want to talk to you today about is how we can actually solve some of the issues, the underlying issues of IoT cybersecurity. And with that, I want to start. Well, if Gil Shved's presentation didn't work, why should mine? Okay, let's see if it works or not. If it doesn't, I'll just do it from the podium. Okay, so today I want to talk about the equation that enables IoT cybersecurity issues. And if we can understand the equation that creates it, we can also remediate it. So when we build an equation, we have to start with axioms. So my first axiom would be that we need to understand it's a business. And it's not just a business, it's a factory. It's a factory that takes data and converts the data into revenue. This is a critical point. We'll get back to this point at the end of my presentation when we discuss the strategy for resolving IoT cybersecurity. The second thing I want us to talk about, the second axiom I want to put, is the security property of this system. I guess I'll stand here. And that is if something is connected, then you can hack it remotely. I mean, we know that everything is hackable, and what we need to understand is that when you take something that is hackable and you connect it to a network, now anyone can hack it from anywhere in the world. And then lastly, this third axiom is that we need to understand the unique characteristics of the IoT domain, and specifically when it comes to consumer apps of IoT, namely the field that I'm working in, which is automotive cybersecurity. And that is that when the complexity is very high, and there's the feedback, right? When the complexity is very high in building the systems, hence protecting them, and when the risk associated with a hack is possible injury or death, we're talking about hospitals, critical systems, transportation, then there can only be one conclusion, and this is what I want to argue here today. I want to say that if there's money involved, if things are hackable, you have to do security by design. And this is the equation that I'm going to describe to you today, and this is actually the point that I will go back to in the end of my presentation, and how do we do security by design for IoT. Now, there's something we need to understand about hacking. Hacking is not something that happens randomly. It's not something that is arbitrary. There is a force that drives hacking. Or to be more accurate, there are three different forces behind vulnerability research. One is the one that we all like to talk about all the time, and that is the state-level, state-sponsored vulnerability research. which takes a small portion, I think, of the overall hacking that we see happening outside in the world today, I think. The second component is the researchers/hackers, people like myself, who take it upon themselves to try to find vulnerabilities for the purpose of protecting them, for the purpose of creating awareness. And the third, of course, are the cyber criminals. And what we need to understand is that the first two groups that I mentioned have a very different ROI approach to vulnerability research than the latter. The latters are only doing things that have the potential to create revenue. For a state, if there's a specific individual or a specific system out there that they're interested in, the amount of time they invest, the amount of resources that they put into this campaign can be something that normally no one would invest if it was a commercial product. Same goes for academia, researchers. A researcher, for example, like myself, can try to find a vulnerability in a specific vehicle system, which is something that maybe hackers or cyber criminals would not do because it wouldn't scale as well. And that brings us to the question, the point of Mirai. Mirai is something that was discussed here, and I'm sure you'll hear it throughout other presentations here over and over again. It's a very interesting case because Mirai is unique in many ways, but in one of the ways it's unique is that it's malware that was dedicated specifically to attack IoT devices. Esty spoke about this earlier. And this should create a question. Why would anyone build malware that is specifically designed to attack IoT devices? Why not attack PCs? Why not attack mobile devices? Why target IoT devices? And that goes back to the question of scaling. As an attacker, what you want is the ability to build, for example, a botnet network that will be undisrupted, that would be persistent, that would scale in numbers so that you can reach hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of devices in a very short time. And the ability to be persistent is very important because, again, you want to monetize this. You want to sell your botnet network to cyber criminals, to people who want to do, for example, distributed denial-of-service attacks. So there's money behind it. And IoT devices are the perfect target. The attack surface is huge. These are devices that normally can't get software updates, or at least the mechanism to distribute them is very, very, very limited. And there are no security products running on IP cameras. There's no anti-malware, antivirus firewall for home routers, for example. Or if there is one, again, that it comes from the manufacturer, it's not an industry-grade product. So for me, as a hacker, IoT is actually a really, really good way to build a botnet. But we're here talking about general IoT, not just consumer IoT. And ironically, it was an old school or a more, let's call it traditional malware that had the greatest effect on IoT, and that was WannaCry. WannaCry, you've heard this again here today a few times. It was a cryptographic ransomware that targeted mainly Windows computers. But still, the effects of WannaCry reached beyond just PCs. It crippled hospitals. It crippled factories for automotive OEMs. It crippled delivery systems. How does a traditional malware affect IoT environments so dramatically? And that again comes to the fact that everything is connected and the backend is critical, is a part of the business process. And then I come back to the first axiom that I laid out this morning, or the beginning of my presentation, that is that money is the driver for implementing cybersecurity attacks against IoT, and all you have to do is follow the money trail to identify the origin of the attack. Now, I want to go back to this slide because there's an inaccurate statement in this slide, or there's a missing statement in this slide, and that is the second one that says that if something is connected, then it's also hackable remotely. And to be accurate, we should also say that even if something is not connected, it can still be hacked remotely. And this is something that I've heard a few speakers here mention this earlier, and when we're talking about the strategy, you do hear voices of people from the cybersecurity space saying some things should be disconnected, and I want to say that out loud. I want to say that we can't assume that air-gapped systems are not going to be affected. This is, I don't know if you've heard the most latest news about the discovery of the CIA's brutal kangaroo air-gapped device, a USB device that bridges air-gapped systems. I think the most famous example goes back to Stuxnet, the worm that affected the Iranian nuclear enrichment facility. And I can tell you from my space of automotive that while there is only a fraction of vehicles out there today that is connected, that is, there's a SIM card embedded in the vehicle or an aftermarket solution that creates connectivity, even vehicles that are not connected, we've shown in our research in Saikuro that we can actually attack them remotely. And that is through, for example, one of the cases that we've shown is through the pairing of a mobile device with the infotainment system of a vehicle. So that is something that we need to consider, that when we have an ecosystem that populates connected and not connected devices, the overall ecosystem is all connected. And that's a very important thing to consider when building a strategy. So to conclude, I started with math. I want to go back to math, and actually ST stole almost all of my points there, so that's what I get for appearing after someone so smart. But really, I want to say just maybe, well, there's 5 points, but I'll focus. We need to understand that if we want to build a strategy that is actually going to resolve the issues, the underlying issue of cybersecurity and IoT, we need to understand it's a financial issue. We need to devise the strategy that would make the cost of the attack higher than the potential gain, or at least higher than the cost in other domains, so that we deflect the attackers somewhere else. To do that, we have to have security by design, which could include, like Esti said, things like regulation, which has to include components for secure over-the-air update, which has to include things like an ecosystem where different security products, I think Gil Shved also spoke about this today, different security products have to work together, and we really need to work on building more sturdy platforms by secure software development lifecycle practices and things like that. So the potential end of this road is when really money becomes something that is not at the reach of the attackers. And that's the thought that I wanted to end my talk with today. Now, I have 2 capacities here today at the conference. One was the capacity here as a speaker. The other one is that I'm going to step into Manny's shoes and moderate the second part of the day. And for that, I want to give you very, very quick messages. So, one, after lunch, there will be a few sessions that will be in Hebrew. For those of you who are not native Hebrew speakers, I suggest you take the simultaneous translation devices. We have amazing speakers here. We have Chris Inglis, from the former Deputy Director of the NSA, and Jim Revis, the CEO of Cloud Security Alliance. We have Major General Nadav Padan, who's going to be speaking here, the head of the IDF IT division. So it's going to be great. I wish you all betavon, good appetit in your lunch, and we'll see you here after the break. Thank you.